Good morning. Welcome to the seminar on technological tracking and advancement in biometric systems which need to be deployed. Um, Earlier, I had given the seminars on biometric systems and their utility and the need for biometric systems, but today we want to focus on some health related biometric advantages. We want to see um, using case studies our biometric systems have to give us advantage in terms of health. It is very important. When we say health, it is mental health and physical health. We are not only talking about the physical health, but we are more concentrated on mental health. The mental health is a big challenge to almost everyone in the society because the ignorant people, the ignorant masses, or a layman, labor worker, or even a teacher, or even a student, or even a policeman, or a driver, or a person who is working in the bar, a person who is working in the food restaurant, they ignore that the mental health is due to the complications in physical health. Mental health is dependent on physical health only. This can be proven very well if one can say that a person is physically good and mentally bad. One can disapprove, but one can say that a person is mentally bad and physically also bad, then this relates the phenomenon. So the idea is not to distinguish between too many challenges a person has, but the idea is to safeguard ourselves such that we don't become to that state. When I say this, it is not that everyone is going to be subjected to that particular state or mental state or physical state, but owing to the happenings in the society, there may be reason that they may be succumb to the changes, bad changes in the society. So, to safeguard mental health based on physical health, we need the biometric and electronic systems. For example, I want to take the challenging role of building a 20-storied house, residential apartment, or a 10-storied life insurance corporation building which is constructed. If anyone can imagine that without the use of electronic systems like smoke detectors, surveillance systems, CCTV cameras, and the lift adapters, the UPS and power supply checkers, the detector systems, wall mount systems, and the technological tracking systems or the Wi-Fi systems, is it possible for the security personnel to immediately address a problem happening within the 10-storied building or a 20-storied building? Is it possible? No, it is not possible. So, when we see an example of a big storage building, we are thinking about technology, but we are not thinking about technology when we see lot many number of persons in a locality, living in a locality. Why I want to compare this situation? The 10-storied building may be free of persons. Nobody would have lived there for say 1 year. It might have been newly constructed and builders might have been waiting for persons to procure it. So nobody would have been stayed there. But when we think about people, more number of persons living in a particular locality, for example, Life Insurance Corporation of India building, where so many persons are going to work in the office from morning 9 to evening 5. So this is happening in the insurance building. And similarly, if you have a big college or a school, the college has got a 6 or 7 storied building wherein so many number of students, professors are going to stay there continuously for about 4 or 5 hours. If it is a 9 to 2 and 3 to 5, still they are going to stay for more hours. So where people are involved, the tracking is very important rather than where people get isolated, and when we have material buildings and also some scenic pictures, scenic grasslands, football stadiums are present. So there, this is not important. Where more people are living for some amount of time in a day, and after the day they are going to go back to their homes, and then they are going to be distributed. If you see the homes, homes in many towns are just 2 floors, they contain 2 floors or 3 floors, so people are distributed across, and there is a gap between two homes, but it is not so in the big buildings where they are working on. They are in a continuous stretch. So within a building at a time there are 500 employees or 500 persons. That is very important, rather than to concentrate that there is only one person in a home, there is only one VIP here. So with this as constraint, I want to say that biometric systems are very important to track the persons, to track their health status, to track their mental health status, not just physical health. I want to put a unique problem called as a cerebral plasy, which is almost found in almost all the nations, if you can take among individuals who are subjected to strenuous work environment, who are strenuously exposed to pollution, um, and who are also exposed to meat products, leather products, meat products, etc. If you take a simple study of what are all the products we use in day-to-day life, if you take a cell phone case, it is made of leather, so we cannot avoid it. If you take our shoes we are wearing is made of leather, we cannot avoid it. When we are working in the industry atmosphere, I am saying, when we are at home we can avoid all this, but when we are working at the industry atmosphere we need to wear leather shoes. Then we are wearing the gloves for playing, say for playing cricket or for playing some game, they contain leather products. um, we also have some winter coat and leather coat, and also um, the sweatshirts as well as the raincoats, they are made of leather products. So leather products find their utility, and even some fire retardant clothes used by firemen to extinguish fire, they contain small leather coating in them, so as to bypass some electrical interference as well as some spark of fire on their leather coats. So this had been made essential by the manufacturing of such products from animals, and certain human being wastes also. If we take a human being waste like bones, which are from some industries, they are taken and procured by paper manufacturing industries. If you take, I'm not saying about the exact non-leather free paper, but I am speaking about the paper for parcels, the coated papers, then thick film papers, molded sheets, advertisement sheets, all these things. They involve coating of leather as well as plastic, or they also involve the mix of bone products from human beings as well as human ash as well as animal wastes. So you can say that all these products cannot be avoided in daily life in the work environment. In the living environment, while we are at home, we can avoid all this. So when we go to the work environment, we are exposed to all these products. These products, for example, animal products such as leather, they cause particular phenomenon in the human body which is going to vary our brain current. Our brain produces a lot of current, which is going to travel across the human body from the central nervous system to the peripheral nervous system, and we have autonomous nervous system also. So central nervous system, we have brain and spinal cord. This current, brain current is go from central nervous system and to the peripheral nervous system. This is how brain current is being distributed across our human body. If you take the main concept of EEG, electroencephalograph is one instrument which is going to detect from the periphery of the skull the brain waves by having so many leads. It may be 10 leads or 22 leads, or it may be more than that. It may even be 7 leads. So the more number of leads, the more accurate is our brain functioning and brain testing. One cannot do a surgery in the brain. A doctor cannot do a surgery in the brain. Once brain is damaged, then nothing can be done with the person. He can be physically fit, but brain damaged persons cannot do anything. So they are coming into special category called disabled. So the brain functionality study is very important right from childhood. We have so many schools, so many institutions, so many colleges, universities, they are running uh, without adequate profit. We cannot say that all the schools are money minded, they are profit making, but they are acting as a sources of rating the brain development of a child from childhood to adolescence or maturity age. What is lacking in schools, what is lacking in colleges, universities is only one thing: electronic systems. There is no need of a mass number of students, a group of students to undergo an assessment or a class or a training or a learning in a particular institution. This causes a lot of commutation problems and living problems. A group of 500 students or 600 students are in the same building. If something happens and the institution is liable to some calamities and it is answerable to heavy masses who are affected due to that, the institution cannot protect 500 persons at a time. It is not possible. So the way in which all planning had been done in the city as well as the town in terms of education had been not up to the mark due to this particular reason. Rather than that, we have got all talented and knowledgeable persons who can impart their training to the learners as best educators. That's what they had been doing for the past years. But what is very important is living and the individual. The individual lives in the society. He is not going to migrate immediately. That is, at least he may stay in the society for 15 to 20 years from childhood. After that, he goes to some other places. So, within this time frame, protecting the individuals is also taken as a challenge because of the events that had happened over the past. What is preventing this is the negligence of a major problem the society has, which is called as a cerebral palsy. I am not speaking about a palsy. There are two things: palsy and palsy. We have a major issue or problem related to the physical and mental health, which is called as a cerebral plasy. Plasm. We have plasm, cytoplasm, endoplasm, and plasma membranes. So this is called as a cerebral palsy. With this, I want to show you the diagram of a human brain. Internal structures. When you say cerebral palsy, this is called as a cerebrum. We have many parts in our human brain. Internally, this is a skull, cranial cavity. Within the skull, we have the meninges, and within the meninges, there is a cerebrum and the medulla. We have two parts. One is the cerebral cortex and the cerebral medulla. And we have many endocrine system glands, many functional glands, and we have a cavity in between that is interior in the brain, which is going to hold the plasma fluid that is called as a cerebrospinal fluid. This is a plasma fluid. So When I say cerebral plasy, this plasma fluid is going to come out of a human brain through some means. You may ask one particular person, you may ask a doctor, you may ask an individual who knows this, how can the plasma fluid come out of the human brain? Even the doctor does not know the way to answer that particular individual. I am not saying doctor is ignorant. Doctor knows that that is a complication, but the way to answer the individual is very difficult. So even the person who knows the condition of cerebral palsy cannot explain to an individual who has that the cerebrospinal fluid is getting radiated. So, what technology in the electronic system and the wireless system has bridged the gap between this? I want to say a technology which evolved in the United States regarding the magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, and technology which also involved in the United States like computer tomography, CT, that gave emphasis on this detection of cerebral palsy. Only then, United States were shocked to know that the mental behavior of persons, even though they were physically assumingly healthy, not physically healthy, they had physical problems because they had good shoulders, good chests, broad chests, and a strong body. They were assumably seen as healthy, and they were not really healthy. So they came with many problems of fights. There is attacks, etc. So it is likely that the same problem is happening everywhere because United States was a democracy. It came out boldly stating this problem from CT scan deployment as well as MRI scanning, and then it gave a report to the developing countries. So in India, we have the development which happened in United States as well as India, and we got the report from the United States regarding the development of computer tomography. And we have many companies like Accenture, Siemens, um, Wipro Medical Systems, which are working in close connection to assess this problem of cerebral palsy, but they are unable to understand what this is going to result into because they were not aware of such problems before 1990s. Only from 1990s this was seen as a problem in United States, but in India only after 2000 it was seen as a problem. But this is always spoken as a minor problem because the ignorant people do not know that the money which has to reach them, it is being obstructed by the persons affected by cerebral palsy. Persons affected by cerebral palsy exhibit a very vibrant behavior and very criminal behavior within themselves, but they are very afraid of the society, so they will not exhibit their criminal behavior outside. So this does not say that the particular person who has got cerebral palsy is a criminal. We cannot say that, and it is not good to say that the particular person with cerebral palsy is a criminal. So one has to wait for the cerebral palsy person to commit a crime, then we have to judge that he is a criminal with cerebral palsy. This is not fair in the world. It is not fair to do such an experiment with the persons with cerebral palsy. So what led to this failure? What led to the failure of such a system is non-deployment of biometric system in our locality. If we had biometric systems already deployed which took fingerprints and retinal scan, iris scan, rather than recognizing the person by face and some photo which is going to be at a distance. The photo is taken in a close distance, but it is not going to take a three-dimensional photo. You cannot assume a 2D picture as a 3D picture. 3D is giving my correct length from my ear to the nose, but 2D is not giving you the right picture from ear to the nose. It is just giving me a picture here. on one particular day due to inhalation of some substance like the Vicks. Vicks is a cold bomb, cold and cough bomb. If I inhale, then my nostrils expand, the nasal cavities expand. So I may look a little bulged with the nose. So at that time, my photo may look like as if a blotted person. So merely identifying a person with photo has caused a lot of problems, even though we maintain the same ID system throughout the world, not just in this country, even outside this is the case. Because of this, the real services and amenities an individual can enjoy in a particular society in terms of monetary funds. Suppose if a person is promised that he may get educated in a particular institution and he is going to play an active part as a member of an enterprise in collectively bringing up many individuals. At that time, the funds which may reach the particular individual may not reach because the organization deploying the persons who are responsible for distributing the funds may ignore that the persons working there have got cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is a disorder. It is not a criminal act, but according to the Indian Penal Code, forgery, counterfeiting is a wrong thing. It is illegal. It is under law. So they will be subjected to penalty. But when we speak about individuals and the society and the welfare, we don't see small lies, small statements or offensive statements against an individual, or scoldings or anger statements against an individual as a big illegal unlawful act. We just take it in a normal manner because we know to behave. Our mental health is intact, which is dependent on physical health, but this is not possible with persons under cerebral palsy. Their behavior is overlooked and their statements are obeyed, or their statements are taken as truth by the persons who are highly ignorant in the society. Because of this, I want to take a case study involving the study of the mental behavior which is related to the brain and what electronic and biomedical systems have so far done in this and what they have ignored as part of biometrics. Now we can see the part of the human brain. I can show you now. You can see the part of human brain. Can you see? Human brain. This is the part of human brain. You can see here the brain has got some these are the vessels and the neurons. It is a big blood vessel combined with a neuron which is going to take the impulse, and you have here, this is the cortex part of the brain, but here you have the convolutions seen, and once you can see you have the blood vessels as well as the nerves which are going to converge there. Now you have seen the real part of the brain. I want to show you a pictured part of brain so that you can very well understand that what you have seen, that dark blood vessel as well as a neuron is going to be this, which is going to run through the periphery. This is the skull, and through the periphery it is going to run. You have small neurons and you have the blood vessel here. This is not a neuron. There is a blood vessel running inside which is going to supply the cerebral cortex with a lot of blood, and it is going to diversify, and this is called as a medulla region, and there is a cavity. This cavity is going to be the cerebrospinal fluid cavity, CSF. You have the CSF in this cavity. So you have the medulla here. This is the medulla region. This is called as there is a pons at the back of the medulla. Here you have the pons. You have the medulla here. Then you have the cerebral cortex. This is called as a frontal lobe. This is called as a parietal and temporal lobes, and you have the occipital lobe here. This is occipital lobe of the human body, brain. So what is very important with this particular functioning of the brain, if we take the functioning of the brain can never be studied by means of education. One says that functioning of the brain can be studied by education, and there are lots of schools, colleges, universities, and educating bodies which are taking lot many students from childhood to a matured age, and even elderly persons are studying in such institutions, but it is very difficult to study or manage the group of students in the particular institute. It is because not even in few institutes, in many institutes, students may also commit some small crimes, not big crimes, due to lack of electronic systems to rate the human being. This is the problem. Why? The electronic systems to rate human behavior and help in human prosperity are very minimum. They are not deployed because the lack of biometric systems present in a particular society is the disadvantage which pulls these electronic systems out of the labeling and tracking system. That means if one labels a particular person with some ailment, with some physical ailment, or a small problem in the eye, or small problem in the nasal or facial structure, then as an individual they may take it as an offensive statement, offensive defamation of the individual, and may file a court case or a law case in the court. This is what had happened over the past, neglecting that assessment of the brain activity of an individual is very important from childhood to maturity, and they have to live longer. The aim of persons is to live longer in the human society, and we have all the institutions for this purpose only. So how brain activity is being taken into study with electronic systems, I want to explain, rather than saying that we are lacking such systems, or we are overlooking the systems, or we are ignoring the systems. How this has been studied, we want to see a look into it. The advantage of electronic systems. Now I want to see the behavioral feedback. If you take a particular CCTV camera or a video camcorder before you, then you can see that when you speak a particular language, when you utter some words, you can see that your mouth coordination along with what you think, that is a human eye, mouth and brain coordination, can be rated by use of CCTV camera or a camera before which you are going to speak. Then if you say that, okay, I don't need a camera, I don't want to procure a high cost camera, then you can take a mirror, simple mirror, which can replace the electronic system. You speak in front of a mirror for improving your articulation. It may help you much. So this is a way of training ourselves with and without electronic system. This is a simple electronic device need or omission which I have discussed. So behavioral feedback is an advantage given by electronic system, whereas the disadvantage, the sensitivity to electron movement, is a disadvantage. If you see, the more we speak before a camera or a video camcorder or before a particular electronic system, the electronic system is going to get hot. People ignore that the usage of electronic system is just simpler than speaking before a mirror. If you speak before a mirror, your body may get hot and the mirror is not going to get hot, but before a camcorder or a mobile phone or a particular laptop you are speaking, the laptop is going to be charged for some 4 hours. It is going to be working for 4 hours. If you talk continuously before that, it is going to get hot. So when it gets hot, when the temperature is above, there is a heat detecting diode and sensor inside the camera or mobile phone or inside the laptop which you are using for checking your articulation. This particular camera is going to be very sensitive to electron movement, such that the sensors inside your electronic devices are going to be sensitive to your cranial radiations. That means when you are speaking, you are losing a lot of energy from your brain. That energy is going to detect some electron movement inside the device. You may ask whether it is possible, and you may think it is a joke, but it is not so. It is not a joke. This has been utilized by electroencephalograph EEG to detect human activities in brain. So you have to believe in what I say, and the belief should be truth, and I am stating the truth based on facts from United States CT tomography, computer tomography documentation after the advancement of EEG. And this is well proven even in Siemens. So you have Siemens company which is creating products from this particular technology. Then the second thing is noise identification training. Electronic systems can give us the ability to identify noise around us. Electronic systems are very well equipped, so they can give us a unique behavior to omit and detect and accept certain noise happening around us. You can ask what is meant by noise. I can even show you an example. If you can see, the building constructed may go into 7 floors or 8 floors, but buildings have got a lot of cavity. They have got provisions for pipes, water pipes. Then they have got provisions for even sewerage pipes. They have got provisions for wash basins and other things on each floor. In that cases, even the animals which are going to stay inside the particular cavities of a floor of a building can be identified if one uses electronic systems to the advantage, but it is not possible by a human ear to concentrate upon such noise, only if it is in the night time. So we are not going to live in the night time in our office work environment in the 7 floors or 8 floors building. So this is overlooked, and if something happens, some problem happens in that particular building, we are overlooking the fact that the animal residing in the cavity is going to be the problem, not the human being. So this is also possible. So electronic systems may avoid such a suspicion by training us with a noise identification within the same building. But the disadvantage I want to say about the electronic system is cochlear damage. When we continuously use, you can interview a security personnel who is watching the CCTV camera as well as hearing the noise of what persons speak for about 8 hours or 9 hours. He may say that he is hearing well. That is, his ears are good, but he has got a doubt that there is something which is dwindling inside this inner ear. He says that his inner ear is somewhat like a noise producing device. This is called as a cochlear damage. It is not a deafness, but it is a cochlear damage which cannot be corrected for that particular person. He has to wear some plugs, ear plugs for that purpose. So electronic systems have this disadvantage. They may damage the cochlea. Then the electronic systems give what we see as a shock is not really a shock, because it is a biofeedback which increases our immunity. Electronic systems give us a feedback that how immune to health we are. For example, the blood pressure sensor as well as the blood pressure meter which is manufactured in electronic blood pressure monitors industries, they are going to give us a good rating about the heartbeat, blood pressure, systolic and diastolic pressure, so that we can improve ourselves by doing exercises by ourselves instead of depending ourselves deeply on medication pills like that which is going to reduce our blood pressure or which is going to reduce our heart palpitations. So this is a biofeedback mechanism which one electronic system can give us. I am speaking about the biomedical devices here. Now, the disadvantage which they have got, the stimulus to responding interval is delayed. What is seen as a biomedical advantage, biofeedback, here we have a stimulus and response. Suppose if one person is pricked by means of a pencil slightly, he may respond and he may remove the hand quickly, but this may not happen to a person who is extremely using these electronic monitors for a long amount of time, because his concentration the neural activity for that person gets modified, that small stimulus in the hands is being overlooked. He may look after the stimulus around his head or the face or around the shoulders, but he may overlook the stimulus given near the hands. So electronic device users are delayed response users. Those who use a lot of mobile phones, those who use a lot of electronic gadgets, those who concentrate much on the videos and other things, they lack information about the stimulus. Even the small cuts in their hand, they overlook. Then electronic systems have got the advantage of identification of aneurysm, which damages the cerebrum. You can see the cerebrum here. This is cerebrum, but aneurysm is a particular phenomenon which is going to damage the cerebrum. That means the person may be appearing as if the person is not doing anything for a large amount of time in a day. The person may simply sit for 2 hours or 3 hours without doing anything. This is called as an aneurysm effect, which is seen outside. Now, the disadvantage is that electronic systems are non-medicinal. Electronic system is not a medicine. We cannot consume electronic system for a ailment or some needs. It is a big problem. And the revelations means the truth is identified and given to the particular user or a customer, consumer or a patient in a hospital by the electronic system. But again, the individual has to depend on medicine to correct his ailments. So this is the disadvantage. When we say all these systems have advantages as this and disadvantage like this, and again we have to depend on medicines for our needs, then we definitely need the electronic systems to work in close with the biometric systems. Only when human beings are tracked, then the electronic systems along with the biometric systems can achieve in providing proper medicines to individuals. So this is very important. Why this is important? To persons who are affected by cerebral palsy, they are disabled. Why it is very important? It is also important for affected persons and unaffected persons. If you take an individual, for an individual it is important. But the persons affected by cerebral palsy, if you see, the cerebral palsy persons have got low CSF in their human head. That means the CSF which is in the particular form, it may be in the liquid form in the cavity of the brain, they have got low CSF. One cannot see opening the brain of a specimen in the laboratory. This is not possible for the doctor, but one can see through radiology or infrared systems. Radiology or infrared systems or magnetic resonance or CT scan, how much amount of CSF is present in the cavities of the human brain. So persons with cerebral palsy have got a negligible amount of CSF, and they have one particular phenomenon called as a cerebral static interference. That means the cerebrum of theirs is going to interfere with the cerebrum of another person. That means their low cerebral spinal fluid in their brain demands a suction of cerebrospinal fluid from other person's brain. This is very shocking because one may say that cerebral palsy individual is going to suck or dehydrate the person who is exposed to that particular individual. So this is shocking, but we have to know this fact because the World Health Organization statistics say that most people are affected by cerebral palsy due to society problems, not due to their development. If a person is healthy from childhood and he is very independent, then he may not be an affected person, but due to society problems and many problems, a person develops cerebral palsy at least in the older age, say 70s or 80s, rather than childhood. So, what these may lead to? These may lead to a problem called as a seizure and lesion. Seizure and lesion are seen in the persons with tumors. If you take brain tumor patients, they have got seizures and lesions. But these cerebral palsy persons are not really brain tumor patients. Brain tumor patients can develop cerebral palsy. That is, along with the brain tumor, cerebral palsy is one add-on which they cannot avoid. It is very difficult to be avoided. But cerebral palsy without brain tumor, they develop seizures and lesions. That means the brain to hand coordination is arrested at a particular event where they have to act quickly. Suppose if a driver drives the bus for some amount of time, suddenly the brain to hand coordination is lacking for some amount of time due to seizures, then the driver may not be able to um, hold the steering, or he may not be able to encircle the steering, which may result in a possible deceleration, sudden deceleration or a sudden brake. So this is a particular real life example of a seizure affecting a particular person at to work. So what we are doing here is post event analysis of a case study. It is done only after 10 years of what the event has had happened before. There was a bad event which happened before 10 years. After 10 years, the government and all the organization, even World Health Organization, then the UN and the monitoring organizations, the fire safety organization, they came up with the document after 10 years of detailed report so that the public can view on the document and educate themselves. But this analysis, post-event analysis, is after seeing that document, scanning that document. I want to throw light upon that particular analysis. I want to bring in this one. Now, you have seen the real brain parts, human brain parts, and the um, disadvantages one individual can experience if there are not proper biometric systems deployed in the society to give a biofeedback process for the individual. Now, this case study is based on a disaster or a calamity due to the ignorance of early deployment of such system in the society. If we had deployed these biometric systems, at least a few individuals would have been educated. But among those few individuals, if you take, if I want to say about myself, I am getting educated seeing a document after 10 years of what had happened. So this is a lapse of 10 years. 10 years means it is 10 into 365 days. 3650 days. After 365 days of event, I am getting educated about that, so that individuals may be very cautious about how to use the electronic materials, leather gadgets, or some other materials which are going to cause toxic emissions, or which are going to damage their organs, human organs, or which are going to affect their living in a bad manner. So it is a very late study, but it is a very important study because the after effect or the result that the event had caused is going to be for lifetime for affected individuals, victims, I'm saying. So we cannot always look in a fearful manner that the world is an unsafe place. It is not so. The world is a safe place. For that we need to get educated, not going to schools, not going to colleges or universities. We have to be very analytical with the use of electronic systems, with the use of our culture, and with the use of discipline that we maintain. And I want to explain a particular case study and the post-event analysis and what had happened because of non-deployment of biometric system. Okay, we are going for a case study now. The case study says that this is a mental behavior and fire incidents relation. So what causes fire incidents and what is meant by mental behavior of persons? This is the case study. So this study had been done taking into the consideration the events that were documented, not the events that were occurring randomly. The events that had been documented properly from 2000 globally and from 2004 locally, that is where I am staying now. If you take the particular case study, I want to explain the case study still simpler. If you have a look at this particular case study, I want to involve two persons who are going to be part of this crucial case study as both victims as well as the persons irresponsible, I can say. So why we are taking in the lifetime of a person, we cannot blame ourselves as irresponsible, not in not going to attend to schools, or in not going to develop ourselves, or in not going to learn new things, in not going to upgrade our technologies. We cannot blame ourselves as very irresponsible. But when some calamities or bad effects take place, what had led to that particular event had been stated in this manner only. So at this juncture, I want to take two persons from the case study. The person A is a male, right? He is from country 1. When he got educated in country 1, in his country he got educated in the religious and humanities. That means how to handle religious institutions, how to handle a particular religious mass, how to handle the human rights, how to handle the arguments which people bring in. So this particular person is educated in religious and humanities. Person A, that is male from country 1, and the person A is also traveling to country 2. So we are bringing in very important persons. We are not bringing in here a layman or a laborer, or a layman who is going to be staying as a farmer, or he is going to produce gallon of food or gallon of materials which are going to be supplied to the government. We are not going to take the case of a farmer. We are bringing in two important persons. Now, country 2, the type of education which the same person, male, had done is a management. That means he advances from a person who got educated in humanities, considering social issues, into a manager, so that he can be deployed anywhere or employed anywhere as a good manager or a head of institution. So he is an important person. Now, what type of freedom we can see in country 1? The type of freedom which he has got is acceptable in learning. That means he has got lot many rights when it comes to learning. He can learn anything based on the resources available in that particular institution or town or the area. So he has got ample number of rights. Now in the country too, because he is under management, he is not allowed to travel to many areas. He cannot travel to unauthorized zones or prohibited zones out of will, because he is getting educated as manager. So he is subjugated by a lot of regulations. So he is unaware of unauthorized and prohibited zones in country too, but he is a manager. Here he has got ample freedom, he has got a lot many flexibility. Then if you take the career, after doing this, after education, there is a job. What type of career this person A, male, has taken? He has taken the career of authority, because he had been educated well in handling social issues, humanities, human rights, and handling the problems of the people. So he may take either a job of a counselor or an authority, or job of authority, not a counselor. So this is what the prospects are available for such person, and he is in prospects, for example. So person A, male, is an authority and a counselor who takes social issues and humanities. Now in the country 2, because he is employed as a authority in country 1, he is just considered as a tourist in terms of visa or some rights regarding immigration to that particular country. He is just a tourist, even though he was educated as a manager. He was an educated manager there, but he is just a tourist depending on the visa he has got now. So country 1 identifies this person as an authority, country 2 identifies this person as a tourist. Now we will come to the person B. Person B is a female. Now if you take all across the world, female or weaker sections of the society, I don't want to say it again and again, pinpointing that women are not competitive with men. This is not a main reason. It is not competitive. When you say weaker sections of the society, I am targeting at the health of the women, not on the competitive spirit that they show. So all this analysis is based on case study, based on mental behavior and fire incidents. So we have to accept that women come under weaker section of the society when it comes to rating their health. If you take life of a woman, average life expectancy of a woman, now it has reduced to around 58 or 60 nowadays, compared to our earlier days of 70s, etc. And if you take average life expectancy of healthy men, I am speaking about healthy men. Healthy men live for around 80s, 90s, or even 100s. On an average 80, you can say. Healthy men around 80 and healthy women around 70s. But now it has been reduced to 60s if you take the life expectancy. So I am considering women are as weaker sections of the society. Considering this female as person B, she is in country 1. She is the weaker section of the society. She is uneducated. It is not mandatory that women are stressed to get educated in country 1, and they are more given strenuous mental activities like doing lot of manipulation work, doing lot of complication work in mathematics or etc. So she is uneducated, we can say. She does not go to school, and she had been staying along with some relatives or so, for example. But she is also a labor worker. That means individual person cannot sit for a long amount of time in a area or in a region or at home. So she is a labor worker. She has to do some type of labor worker, say stitching, say sweeping or something, some household activities, etc. Rather than playing also. So uh, for playing, separate zones are required, like playgrounds or stadiums, etc. It is not available everywhere. So instead of commuting for a large distance of 5 to 10 kilometers, a girl may be subjected to some amount of labor work at home. So in country 2, so what happens to this uneducated and labor worker woman, that is female, if she goes to country 2, and she goes to country 2 as asylum seeker because she has not got her education certificates at proper time, at proper age. Education certificates are not must, but if one does not have as a woman, as a female, then they cannot accept her as skilled labor, as employed as a work permit labor, or as an educated person, or as a person who comes under tier systems of visa. So she has to go as an asylum seeker. When she goes to country 2, she gets trained in handling pump fittings, pipe fittings, gas pumps, and electric ovens, etc. That means asylum seekers are normally trained in some work, so as to show them if some disaster happens, they have to be equipped, they have to immediately vacate, or what is the extent of disaster. It is not exploitation, but a few times training means not labor employment. So they had been trained in handling the gas pumps, electric ovens, which were available in industries, because her status says that it is asylum worker or asylum seeker. So this is the type of job which one can allocate for a asylum seeker as a training. Now coming to the career prospects, we saw that person B had been uneducated and she had been trained as an asylum seeker in handling gas pumps, etc. Now in the career prospects, when she arrives into country 1 back, when she arrives into country 1 back, due to her trained experience in handling this, she might have been allocated by the manager. That means the manager in that particular country 2, who is now the authority in country 1 in handling a basic pipe fitting or a boiler, which is going to be deployed in an institution for a certain purpose, for servicing certain number of workers or students or children, etc. So she might have been deployed for that purpose, and she might have been an experienced person doing a daily activity check of such pipe fitting and boiler handling. Now, what type of career prospects she might have had in the country 2 she had traveled before? Only food expenses might have been given for her as an asylum seeker, and stay allowances might have been given. So no authority or a salary which is going to be permanent might have been given to her, because the state of the person as the manager in country 2 had been a tourist after some visa restrictions. You can understand why I am emphasizing this, because I am taking the case study from a crucial period, that is 2001 globally and 2004 locally. So you have to be very comprehensive in thinking about why their status were like this. Now I want to come exactly to the problem of non-deployment of biometric, and what might have happened really in the background than what we have seen in the newspapers, or news agents are exaggerating interviews, or big discussions among people in the society. Those will not give the true picture. But what might have happened if you take the group in country 1 formed, which was between a very important person, that is, he is a manager and he is a very good person trained in humanities, and he has been a counselor and authority, and the group has been formed with a well trained asylum seeker in handling these gas pumps, etc. Now, why these have been formed? This group has been formed because in country 2 they could not sustain with the skills they have got or with the rights limitations they have got, because there were some limitations and regulations which they were not exposed to, and they were not allowed to full-fledged freedom. Because of this, they had to come to country 1, but they had to use their experience. In country 2 they had lot of experience, so they had to form a group due to country 2's regulations, not country 1's regulations, because country 1 had given them freedom, enough freedom which was acceptable, and country 1 did not bother about educating that person, that is female. So both had happened here, a male and a female who had formed a group in an institution, I can say. Now, in country 1, it does not have a biometrics. Country 1 does not have a biometrics because it had been liberal in giving the freedom to the persons, and it is wanted that freedom is given to all individuals. And it does not have the biometrics. However, it relies on cryptic face recognition. So whatever system may be, the systems are more responsible in going to give us services rather than individuals. We are thinking that individuals may give more services, which is not possible. Systems have to be very intact. Only then individual can benefit. Individuals cannot help another individual. If another individual approaches me, I can give him some book, or I can give him some written notes or some PowerPoint or some amount of cash, say 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. More than that, individual cannot help another individual, but systems have to help individuals. So country 1 did not have biometric, but it relied on cryptic face recognition. Country 2, rather, it does not have country 1 data mapping, but because it is an asylum seeker, she is an asylum seeker, but has the iris and eye data with cryptic face recognition. That means once the person, the female, enters the country 2 as an asylum seeker, her iris and eye data are captured, so that they are very cautious that that particular female must not be considered as a criminal there. Even criminals are taken iris data and eye data. So for that, to safeguard the female, they might have done this. So country 2 has got iris and eye data. Now back to country 1. Country 1 says that country 1's feedback about that particular male and the female. Country 1 says that that particular male, that is the manager in country 2, and the humanities worker or counselor in country 1, is manager in country 2 and humanities and counselor in country 1, is cultural and disciplined. He is most disciplined and cultural person according to country 1. Country 1 says to country 2. Then country 1 also says that the female is an ignorant and she is uneducated. According to country 1, it is true. Country 1 says that female is ignorant and uneducated, but the country 2 has trained the uneducated and ignorant female into handling risky gas pumps and big electric ovens. That means he is more experienced than the particular manager who can't handle even such task. So country 2 now says in the report, based on the biometrics they have taken with the help of iris and eye data, they have taken, because in the country 2 they are going to take so as to protect them. It says that male, the eyes are less pigmented and possibility of cerebral malformation. There is some ailment in that person which is going to affect his cerebral functioning, that is coordination, sensory reflexes, motor reflexes, coordination, sensory, motor reflexes. So the person may not respond to stimulus better than a healthy person, it says. The biometric data taken in country 2 says that this particular person's eyes are less pigmented. With the eyes they can say that, they can affirm from the doctor's suggestion that he will be less in coordination in the event of any stimulus and response activity which has to happen within 5 seconds or 10 seconds. They may not respond at all, it says. And it also says, the country 2 also says that for the female the same problem exists even though she is an asylum seeker. For male also the same problem, the female also same problem, the country 2 says. But country 2, as I said, it has got only cryptic face recognition, not full biometrics. It has got iris, eye data and biometrics, but cryptic face recognition. That means, I want to show you what is meant by cryptic face. This is a correlation between two identical faces. I am showing you a face which is a cryptic face. That means people take the photograph of a person and the software, the IT company's software product is going to change the photograph of the person into this particular format. For storing this identity mark, that means the distance between the eyebrows and the nose is this, distance between the mouth and the nose is this, and his face is like this, and the ears are here, leaving out the hairs, leaving out the mustache or the beard he may have, or even the spectacles he may have. But has it got the eye information from the photo? No. For that they have to take the iris and the eye data. Iris and the eye data is very important along with cryptic information. So this is a cryptic face. I want to show you a non-cryptic face now. I want to show the non-cryptic face by shading. So this is a person with curly hairs. You can see curly hairs. Now I want to put the spectacles for the person. Right? Now this is a non-cryptic face, this is a cryptic face. Can anyone say that this person is the same as that of this person? To some extent you can say, right. Now we want to address a special issue. Suppose the person is going to cut the hair. He's going to cut the hair and he's going to be like this. He's going to develop the hair like this. And he develops some hairs. Hairs can be shaved, but he develops some hairs. Now, can anyone say that this person is equivalent to that of this person? Yes, still. But what cannot identify, depending on photograph, that this person is not equal to this person is the expansion of this particular cranial meninges. The meninges, if they get advanced, they get expand. For example, I can draw the same person, but I want to show you within this. If the meninges get expanded, say meninges are like this, due to plasy, right? Meninges are like this, or the meninges are getting shrunk. The meninges are getting shrunk. You see, the meninges are getting shrunk, right? Now, the person's face is modified into, this is a big head, you can see, but now this is a narrow head. The face has shrunk. Due to cerebral palsy, the CSF has been lost in this particular person. The particular person has lost CSF. She is looking for CSF from another person. Her head can absorb CSF from another person. This is not a good power, but it is a bad power, I can say, due to which the person's face has been modified in this format. Originally, this is the person, and originally, this person had been modified into this face. Now, can you recognize? Because of this, when the head is getting shrunk, this will push the face, that is a lower end of the face, towards the neck. If you find the neck here, the face is pushed, and if the person is looking like this, one may think that the exact picture of this person is not going to match with this picture. So, the 2D system of identifying this particular person with the photograph has failed. It may even be success with iris and eye data, but even the eye, if it lacks pigmentation, so earlier he has got pigment, for example, you can see, but if a person has got pigment, he will look like this. But over the years, due to cerebral palsy, the pigmentation has been lost, and this big pigmented eye had been reduced to a small eye like this, and the cerebral palsy had reduced the head. It has shrunk the head, and it has pushed the face towards the neck. Then the person shown here is not equal to this person, but it is the same person. You can see this is a cryptic face, this is a non-cryptic face. You can see the same person, but one may think that there are different persons. This is the real problem which the case study had been performed, because of many reasons. The case study was performed so as to see who is the witness and who is the victim in a particular incident that had happened. So it was very important to look for victims and witnesses in the event of any accidents or any calamities, etc. How one can look for it? They need electronic systems, not small sensors, gas sensors, smoke sensors. I am speaking about big surveillance systems. Even the origin of a particular fire from a room or from a place to the end of the fire should be tracked with all the systems, that is smoke detectors, gas detectors, sensors, camera sensors, then surveillance radars, surveillance systems, and the wireless devices, Zigbee devices, wireless devices, Wi-Fi, and the mobile phones, etc., and also the internet cable which has got the network connectivity issue under some event. So it is not possible to collect data from all the information like an investigation report after the event has happened and the total building has been damaged completely. It is not possible. So we have to rely on witnesses only. We have to rely on victims' voice only. But if we have a problem in identifying either the victims or the witnesses due to non-deployment of biometrics, then the underlying cause of any accident or incident or the prevention of same incidents in future would have been difficult, or it may become difficult. Hence, I am emphasizing on biometric systems. Now, I want to show a thought how it is going to be difficult. If you see, this gives a report on the possible witness and victim. So there are two persons, one is a witness and another is a victim. This is an international penal code, not IPL, which is related to cricket, but it is international penal law. It says that post-event analysis, it has been given only after the 10 years passed on after the event has occurred. So with this post-event analysis also, we have got one result which is putting persons into ambiguity when we analyze this one. If we take the disaster event which had taken place, it is a fire incident. The number of victims non-alive is more than number of victims alive. That means one particular building has got say 100 to 200 persons, 100 to 200 persons, or even 400 persons, you can say. At present, after 10 years, the number of victims alive are just say if it is 390 persons, only 10 persons will be alive as victims. Then what is the use in getting a data? That is what they ask. Then number of victims alive is very little compared to number of victims non-alive. Then the witness may not be victims. I want to stress the fact that when the victim is subjected to a particular stimulus, the response time to act in panic will not be considered as a witness. That person will not be in a position to explain what had happened clearly. This is the problem when there are no electronic systems, there are no helping auxiliary systems, surveillance systems in place. And there is a lot of movement of people, there is a lot of people working in a same building which is equivalent to 2500 square feet. If you see even multi-story building, 7 floors, 10 floors, 12 floors, they are into 2500 feet only, not more than that. They may be even within the 4000 feet, not more than that. So within 4000 feet of a land area, there are 500 persons. So witness within the event premises at that time are very important, rather than the witness outside. There may be a spectator watching incident. He may say that I saw that particular incident happened on that particular time. I was in panic. This is what happened. He might have explained. That would have been taken as a FIR, first information report, and it would have been broadcasted. But it is not very important. We want to see everything, every tracking system equivalent to electronic tracking system. Electronic systems and the biometric systems are the best, rather than the human beings who were actually made victims and also the witnesses. Now the second thing is the witness lost. What about the witness lost? Say witness might have been lost as a suicidal case of hating the life. Witnesses may be the relatives of the persons who had been victims in such accidents. So those persons would have been lost a dependency or a good nature about their life. They may think that why they are living in this world. So with that mindset on the mental behavior, I want to say they might have been lost as a suicidal hate of life. So this is one more question. Then victims and rehabilitation. So how can they transform the panicked and a bad state victim into a good healthy state victim, even though they have got lot many moral rights and also counseling support from all parts of the world? How can they transform the victims under rehabilitation? This is a big challenge. It is not possible to 60% wellness. You can say that 50% wellness they can achieve. That means the person may not be well 50%, the person may be well 50%, but even 60% achievement is not possible. Then victims under the witness group layer protected. That means if we know that victims are able to behave as witness, they have got the strength to behave as witness, then their group layer is always protected. They are protected by the law and the courts. But this has resulted in the case study. After the case study, these three sets have been taken into picture. But the shocking thing is that these three had been greatly affected by the cerebral disorders. So, cerebral palsy is one which has affected all the three particular groups in a great manner, such that the underlying cause of the incident would have been hidden. What may have happened is might have been a guess. Say, yeah, I told you about the female person. If the biometric systems and the CCTV cameras or surveillance systems would have been in place, what might have happened will be a guess. Now we can see that the female who was trained as asylum seeker handling the gas pumps and big electric ovens in country 2 might have been at the time of incident would have handled this leakage or a fire better. At the time, she would have been a handler, better handler as a witness and partly as a victim of watching what had happened. So she might have had in the her place in the spot. She might have handled this particular spread of the fire. But what might have happened if that particular handler might have been affected by cerebral palsy? I told you that cerebral palsy lacks coordination. That is brain-eye coordination, brain-hand coordination, hand-eye coordination. At that time, a person who has to seal a particular portion of a regulator or seal a particular portion of a tube or a pump which is going to leak the fuel as well as the fire, or a particular person who is going to cover the portion which is emanating from fire with a big sheet, might have been affected by the cerebral palsy and coordination issue, that particular hand would have been catching the tube and it would have been static for some time. It would not have affected that particular female at that particular time, because she had been well trained. Even though uneducated in the country 1, she had been well trained in the country 2 as asylum seeker, handling the electrical ovens and gas pumps, which had not produced a shock on her or which had not affected her physically. It had not burnt her. But what had burnt? The fuel emanating from that particular thing would have been burst to the topmost floor of the building, and topmost floor of the building would have caught fire. The lady who had handled the regulator or the pump might have been saved, and she would have been out of cerebral palsy. Lack of coordination would have been static, not knowing what to do, and she would not have had got the guts to leave the regulator. So this fire might have spread with the same position of the regulator pointing the roof. Because of that, the roof might have caught fire and the roof might have fallen. When the roof of the top floor of the building collapses everywhere, it would result in the next floor fire, and the fire will spread to next floor. This is what had happened in almost 7 cases from 2001 to 2018. Even now, we saw in newspapers and televisions and videos, but many of them did not have electronic detection systems. A few of them in multi-storied buildings had electronic systems and surveillance systems so that they could watch what had happened. Now, when taking this particular lady or the female who could not act at the event of fire, and who could have been blamed as a possible cause of fire also, as a being a witness, being a victim, being unable to act but well trained, possible cause of fire. This lady would have held that um, position of bad state, and even under the disaster. So it is very hard to put a discretion so as to say whether she is a witness, whether she is a victim, whether she is the cause of the fire, she is responsible for creating some fire due to cerebral palsy, lack of mental behavior. Assessment is very difficult. It is made difficult. So this puts pressure even in identifying human beings after some years of age. I had shown you an example about cryptic phase and non-cryptic phase. It is very difficult to come up with the real identity of a person after some years affected by cerebral palsy, lack of pigmentation of eye, and the reduction in the cranium, skull cranium. So it is a three-dimensional picture, and the scanning of the eye is required, not just the 2D photo. So this is the lack of biometric data in crucial event, in crucial time, which is going to prove as a critical assessment for mental behavior of persons working in institutions. Because of this nature, the funds are the real monetary funds which are needed for development of infrastructure or development of one individual as a whole, which has to reach the individual, are blocked by institutions which are not managing the persons properly. It is almost applicable to all institutions. I am not pinpointing institutions in my locality, in my state, in my neighboring state. It is even applicable to United States. It is applicable to United Arab Emirates and Singapore also. So it is very important that we address the biometric system of identification to benefit the individual and safeguard the individual, and lessen the movement of people from one place to another so as to live there for some amount of time, and it will increase the security risks of monitoring them. So biometric systems advanced in technological tracking should be deployed, and it is going to be a green revolution, or it is going to be a evergreen technology for the future. Not just the technology which is going to be of the 1890s or 1900s or the 1980s or even the 2000. It will be going to be assisting the human life expectancy in the future to come. It may continue from 2000 to 2900. One may not know. So we may not think that only we live in this world for centuries. We are also thinking that in future also the world is going to exist. We are not in the mood to say that world is going to be destroyed and world is going towards destruction. This was a statement once in 1200 a person said that the world is going to be destroyed. Then after 1900 a person said that world is going to be destroyed. Now in 2012 one said that world is going to be destroyed, and this world is going to be destroyed statement can be given by anyone based on the number of deceased persons, based on the increase in the number of calamities, based on disaster, based on the struggle the individual does to live in the society. Based on all these factors one can give a statement. I am not saying that giving a statement is wrong, but as a reality what is happening, the world will exist, the earth will exist forever. The earth is a planet. Similarly, sun is a source of energy, it will exist forever. So we have to bother about ourselves, individual needs, and what had prevented the individual to grow or attain some funds from governing bodies to better himself. What has restricted it is due to the non-availability of biometric systems to identify the particular individual who is going to be benefited out of this particular governance or particular consortium of World Health Organization. So this is the need of the hour. I want to wind up with this. Thank you very much for watching.